Welcome to the Marley Bird YouTube channel. In this video, I will show you how to make the Cozy Time Fringe Throw. This throw uses 11 balls of Red Heart Hygge yarn. This is a really squishy, very lovely, wonderful yarn. In today's example, I will be using Red Heart's Chic Sheep with Marley Bird for part of the example, and then Hygge for the second part of the example. This is a free pattern available at redheart.com. Please go ahead and download that pattern, gather your materials, join me back here, and we will get started. The Cozy Time Fringe Throw is a great beginner pattern by Salena Baca. I love her patterns, and I know you will too. As I mentioned at the start, I'm using Red Heart's Chic Sheep by Marley Bird yarn for part of this example. And we begin with a slip knot. Place the tail of the yarn in the palm of your hand. Take your working yarn, wrap it around your forefinger and middle finger. When you come back up, cross over. Rotate your hand over. Go underneath the front loop and grab that back loop. Now take them off of your fingers and you have a slip knot. For this example, I will be using a size H or a 5mm crochet hook with this yarn. When we begin working with the Hygge yarn, we will transfer to an L hook. For the blanket, you want to chain 121 chains. For my sample here, I'm just going to do a few chains to show you how to work these stitches. Once you have 121 chains, we will work a half double crochet in the second chain from hook. You never count the loop on your hook, so we would skip one, and so in this next one, we want to do a half double crochet. Yarn over your hook, go into the chain, yarn over your hook, and then pull that hook right back through the chain, pulling through the loop that you wrapped around your hook. I now have 3 loops on my hook. I want you to take a minute now and I want you to grab a removable stitch marker and I want you to place that stitch marker in the middle loop on your hook, okay? I'm going to place it in the middle loop of my hook. Can you see that? This will be important and it's something I want you to make sure that you are doing, the middle loop of your hook. Now, I have 3 loops on my hook. I will yarn over, draw through all 3 loops. Now I want to do a half double crochet in each chain all the way to the end. So I yarn over my hook. I will find the next chain, put my hook through that chain, yarn over, pull my hook back through that chain. Now I have 3 loops on my hook, yarn over, draw through all 3 loops. Yarn over my hook, go to the next chain, insert my hook, yarn over, pull my hook back through that chain. I have 3 loops on my hook, yarn over, draw through all 3 loops. Okay, I'm going to do this into each chain all the way to the end. When you finish the last half double crochet, you now go ahead and you will turn your work. Once you've turned your work, you're ready to begin row 2, and the stitches for row 2 are going to be worked in the horizontal bar of the stitch. In a regular stitch pattern, you typically will work either into the front loop of the stitch or the back loop of the stitch or underneath both loops of a stitch, okay? But if I take my work, here I'm going to hold on to this. If I take my work and I kind of rotate it just like so, so it's laying flat, you can see that I have this horizontal bar right here. And that bar is where I'm going to place my stitches. I'm not going to place it in the front loop or the back loop. I'm going to use this bar. So I start off my row 2 with the chain 1. Okay. Now I'm going to place a half double crochet. So I want to yarn over my hook. And I like to work into the horizontal bar going from the bottom to the top. So I come underneath the bar and I go up. Okay, so it's like I've come through that bar. I yarn over, bring my hook back through that bar, and I have 3 loops on my hook. I want to go ahead and yarn over and draw through all 3 loops. Okay, so I've just placed a half double crochet in that horizontal bar. I now want to put a half double crochet in each horizontal bar all the way down the row. If you're working on the blanket, you will have a total of 120 half double crochets worked into the horizontal bar. This is very important that you count at the end of your row, because if you forget a bar, you will end up coming up short and your throw will not come out in the shape it's supposed to. So let's go into the next horizontal bar. We yarn over our hook. Coming from the bottom to the top, I'm going to grab that horizontal bar, yarn over, come back out that stitch, that horizontal bar, so I have 3 loops on my hook. Now I just complete it like a normal half double crochet. Yarn over my hook, go to the next horizontal bar, yarn over my hook, come back out, yarn over my hook, draw through all 3. Yarn over my hook, go up the horizontal bar, yarn over my hook, come out, yarn over, draw through all 3. I want to do this all the way down to that marker that I had you place on that very first stitch, and I'm going to show you why I had you place that marker there. As I come up to the last stitch of my row, it actually is very hard to know where that horizontal bar is. But because I had you mark that second, or that one, the stitch that was in the middle, the loop that was in the middle, that is actually the horizontal bar we want to go into. That's why I had you mark it. So that would be really easy to find it when you got down here. So all I have to do is go into that stitch that I have marked and complete my half double crochet. I can now take my marker out and turn my work. As you turn your work and you get ready to begin row 3, let's take a minute and look at the fabric we've created so far. As you look down here, you can see that by working through the horizontal bar of the previous row, we have exposed the top V of our stitches to the right side of the fabric, and it gives a really cool knitted look. On this row we're getting to work into, this time we will be working into the back loops of these stitches. So we're not going to use the horizontal bar, we're going to use the back loop. I want to remind you that we are at this edge, and this is where I like to use that stitch marker to make sure that I can find that horizontal bar the next time I need it for this particular stitch. So we will start off with our chain 1, yarn over your hook, insert, so before we were working like this, I kind of want you to tilt it up and going into the back loop only, yarn over, pull up a loop. So we have 3 loops on our hook. This is where I want you to pause, grab your marker, and place that marker in that middle loop. See it? In the middle loop. And that's just going to help you find that horizontal bar at the end of the row, okay? Once you've done that, go ahead and complete your half double crochet. And then we will do that into the back loop of each stitch all the way down this row. You see that? Just working half double crochets, and I'm working into the back loop only all the way down the row. When you get to the end, make sure you don't forget that very last stitch there. Go through the back loop of that very last stitch and work your half double crochet. See how pretty that is right now? Let's go ahead and take a look at another piece I've worked up a little bit further so you can see how the stitches really start to pop as you get more fabric. Here's a little pink swatch I have been working on, and hopefully you can see here I have some really nice rows of what look like knit stitches working across, and that is all because of working through the horizontal bar and the back loop only on every other row, because that's the repeat for this whole blanket. You keep repeating rows 2 and 3, 2 and 3, 2 and 3, until the blanket measures 54 inches. Let's go ahead and work on this row just so you can see this one more time. I'm going to turn my work, And on this one, the horizontal bar, again, it's right here. Can you see it? It's on the edge of the stitches right here. Because, let me set this down and grab my pointer. This is the front loop of the stitch. This is the back loop of the stitch. And this is the horizontal bar. That's the one we want to work into. So I've already done my chain 1, so I'm going to yarn over my hook. And I'm going to come from underneath and go up. I like to do it that way. I've seen other people go from the top down. When what I mean by that is I've seen people go in this direction, and you could do that. I mean, look, you yarn over, pull up a loop. It kind of gives that twist there, and then you draw through the 3. You still get a nice look, but it twists the horizontal bar, and I'm not really a fan of it, so I like to go from the bottom to the top. So I yarn over, come from the bottom to the top through the horizontal bar, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 3. Okay, and for those of you who are curious why I'm using only a marker on that one side, it's because I find that it's not super difficult to find that back loop, but I find it difficult to find the horizontal bar at the end of the row. So I'm only adding my stitch marker to help me find the horizontal bar. If you wanted to add a stitch marker at this end too, so you could find the back loop, you absolutely could. It just would go through the final stitch, not the 3rd loop before you complete the stitch. Here is the bar. So I yarn over, go through, and complete my half double. Right? Not super difficult. I'm going to show you how to add that stitch marker again. So I will turn my work, chain 1. Again, get a really nice fabric happening here. Yarn over my hook, go into the back loop only. Yarn over my hook, pull up a loop. This is where I take my marker. I'm going to put it through that middle loop on my hook right at this point. That's going to be my resulting horizontal bar. Yarn over, draw through all 3. Okay? And then I just finish up with working through the back loop all the way down. Again, you will work on this pattern until your blanket measures 54 inches. Now, I've shown you how to do this with some nice smooth yarn, Chic Sheep, but if you want to use the Hygge yarn that the pattern calls for, which is really soft, so wonderful, and it uses a larger hook, let me show you what those stitches look like with the fuzzier yarn. As I mentioned, the Hygge yarn is a nice and fuzzy yarn, so it's a little bit tricky to see your stitches. But I've gone ahead and worked up a little swatch here. And this is the right side of my fabric. And you can kind of see how those stitches look right there. Those are the knit looking type stitches on the front of my fabric as a result of working through the horizontal bar or the back loop only. So if I pull in the pink fabric here, you can see the difference. Like here's the horizontal or the knit-like stitches on that one, and here they are on this one. A lot more fuzzy here on the gray, right? This is a good example too of gauge. These both have the same number of stitches, but this yarn is thicker and I used a bigger hook. This yarn is a little bit thinner and I used a smaller hook, but see how much of a difference it is? So if you were interested in possibly changing the type of yarn you want to use for this blanket, you absolutely could do that. You just would have to change your chain amount because your resulting blanket would actually be a lot smaller if you used smaller yarn. Or conversely, if you use bigger yarn, you want to make sure you have fewer stitches so that way you didn't have a huge blanket. Okay. All right. So let's take a look at this one. I'm ready to do a row 2, which is working through my horizontal bar. So I'm going to turn my work, get that on my hook here, and chain 1. And my horizontal bar here, I know it's hard to see because they're fuzzy. That's why I use the smooth yarn to start off. If I use my pointer, here's the front loop, here's the back loop, here's my horizontal bar. So I will go ahead, yarn over my hook, coming from bottom to top through my horizontal bar, and complete my half double crochet. And I would do this all the way down the row. And you'll notice with the bigger hook and the fuzzier yarn, it's a little bit tricky, but as you get going along, you get in a really good rhythm and it's easy to find the stitches you need. You'll also notice because this yarn is a little bit, it's fuzzy and slick, I like to go ahead and when I go into my horizontal bar, yarn over and pull up a loop, you'll notice that I like to grab that loop and sort of like the bottom of those, let me rephrase that. I grab the horizontal bar and those loops that are on my hook, I like hold on to them so they don't overstretch. So when I yarn over and draw through 3, I've not overstretched my horizontal bar. And I find that that is a really good habit to get into when working with the Hygge yarn so that you don't overstretch things too much. And then again, see how easy it is for me to spot where that bar is because I've marked it. So I can just use my marked stitch and I know exactly where my horizontal bar is. So there is the wrong side. As I flip this over, here's the right side. You can see these really nice V stitches. And then once again, I would do a row of half double crochets through the back loop only. Okay, so I think you know how to do that by this point. Remember, I'm going to pause right there and I'll take another marker just so I don't move that other one. As you can see, I'm putting it into the middle loop and then I finish my half double. See how that marks my horizontal bar back there? So I know exactly where it is when I need to get to it again. And then I just finish up with my half double crochets through the back loop only, all the way down. Again, I'm going to remind you, you do this until it measures 54 inches and then you add the fringe, which is really super easy. Let me show you how to do that now. To make the fringe, you cut 3 strands of yarn about 20 inches long. So what I like to do is I'll take the first strand and measure it out, and then I will hold all 3 strands together and then cut my yarn. Okay, so I get my 3 strands. I then fold those strands in half, and with my blanket in front of me and the right side of my blanket in front of me, the right side is the side that looks like it has all those really cool knit stitches. I take my hook and I'm going to go from the back towards the front, and that wasn't a very good placement. I'm going to place it right here. That's much better. I will grab the fold of my fringe and then pull that through. Okay, so now I have this loop here and I will thread the ends or the tails of the fringe through that loop and tighten it up. Now that loop is nice and tight next to the fabric of the blanket. Once you have all the fringe added, that's when you begin working the knots. So you separate the fringe 3 strands over this direction and 3 strands this way. And then in the fringe next to it, you'll take those 3 strands. So now I have 6 strands in my hand. And I'm going to place a knot about 1 inch below the one that's connected to the blanket. So I'm just going to tie a basic knot. Make sure you get all the strands through. Try and even it up as best you can. There you go. And then this one would attach to this one over here. Or if this were the end of my fabric, I would just let that be, just like I let this one be over here. Then you want to do the 3rd row of knots. So you take the knot you just completed, separate that with 3 strands, which will meet up with this one. These 3 strands will meet up with this one. And we'll go about 1 inch below the 2nd knot we completed. So I'm just going to fold these together and work that knot. Make sure it's as even as I possibly can get. There we are. You can see I already took the other 3 strands and added them over here. So this here, if this was my edge, those would be hanging out. So I just partner them up again with the 3 strands from this fringe. Tie my knot. Try and get it as even as I possibly can. And voila, you have this really cool knotted fringe. At the very end, you can go ahead, straighten out the fringe, and then trim it up if you want them nice and even, or if you really like sort of the haphazard, all over the place sort of look, you can keep that as well. Totally up to you. Get rid of those ends and you have really nice fringe on this really cool, simple blanket. I love the way Salena Baca has a way of combining very simple stitches with a nice edging treatment, and you get an entirely lovable blanket that you just can't wait to make. Go ahead, pick up some Red Heart Hygge yarn on your own. You will absolutely love this stuff. It comes in fantastic colors and it is so incredibly soft. You will love to snuggle up in your Cozy Time Fringe blanket. I'm Marley Bird, proud national spokesperson for Red Heart Yarns, and you now know how to make this great blanket. See you next time. Hey, thanks for joining me today on the channel. If you want more videos just like that one, check out some of these other videos that I've already handpicked for you. And don't forget to hit subscribe so that way you're up to date whenever I release a new video. And don't forget, smash that like button, as my kids say. Bye guys.